Welcome into One of One Sports, the only one for your original sports takes, commentary, analysis, and of course, predictions. Today, we continue our college football prediction series by predicting every single Big 12 team's record. Let's get into it. All right, so before we get started here, if you guys enjoy this type of content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 200 subscribers before the start of the college football season, but I need your guys' help to get there. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, so if you saw my Big Ten video, it's the same format as that. We're just going to go through each team and predict the record. So I'm going to start off with a team that I think is going to be towards the bottom of the Big 12. And I'll try to describe why as we go through the games. You get a win over UT Martin and lose to Oregon before a bye, defeating Tulsa in the non-conference. I think Oklahoma State's a team that's going to struggle again this year. Last year, obviously, was very disappointing. You lose a lot from that team. You'd have really inexperienced quarterback play, and I think a lot of the Big 12 just has more talent, more experience coming back. So Baylor, I think they're going to be able to run the ball on you, have the better quarterback. I like them. Arizona at home. I think you'll win one of these home games. I think I'll give you the Cincinnati win, lose to Houston at home, and then you lose to Texas Tech and Kansas. There's just not too much on this Oklahoma State team that I can trust to be really good. And when you have what I would rank as probably the worst quarterback situation in the conference, that's going to hold you back. And I have you finishing the season at 3-9 once we get that Texas Tech game in there. So as you can see, these are kind of be rapid fire type of things. So I'm going to go Cincinnati next. A team that I think a lot of people think will improve. I'm not as high on as others. You lose basically all your receivers, all your skill positions, and Brendan Sorsby, I'm not as high on as maybe some others are. So yeah, the lack of returning production there just doesn't leave a lot for me to believe in. I think you'll be okay and like kind of fighting for bowl eligibility. I think you lose to Kansas here, and I think Iowa State's better than you, but you can beat Central Florida. Baylor and Utah, I think both get past you, two teams I'm really high on. But off the bye, you get a couple wins, beating Arizona and Brigham Young at home before losing to TCU, and you finish the season 5-7, just missing out on bowl eligibility. The third team I want to do here, again, towards the bottom of the conference, Central Florida, who, I mean, the first two games, you should clearly get the win. But then off the bye, I like North Carolina to beat you with Bill Belichick coming in. UCF's a team, you lose Gus Malzahn, you lose pretty much everything from your roster, actually. Like Taven Jackson, I assume is going to be the quarterback, which is decent. But outside of that, I just don't see a ton on this team. I'll give you a win against Kansas and I think a win against West Virginia. Let's see this. Let me see. I think I'm going to change up one of these. I think I'm going to have West Virginia beating you. Maybe I switch that one. I do West Virginia right now. But yeah, I think UCF, I feel like they're not a bowl team, so I'm going to go with 5 wins for them. West Virginia is a team I think could be a sneaky good team in the Big 12. With Rich Rodriguez coming in as coach, overhauls the transfer. It's a lot of an unknown, but I do like the hire. Nico Markule at quarterback, I think could be pretty decent, and I think you get off to a good start winning all your non-conference games. I think you lose to Kansas and Utah to open conference play. Unfortunately, Kansas I think is a tough road game between two pretty evenly matched teams, and then Utah I think has a physicality edge that could bother West Virginia. I also think Brigham Young beats you here, so you're off to a rough start after I say you could be sneaky good. But then after the bye, I think is where you can pick it up, beating Central Florida, pulling an upset on TCU, drop the Houston game, but bounce back, beating Colorado State. And then I think your big signature win of the season off the bye is going to be an upset win over Texas Tech, who I think is one of the best teams in the Big 12 this year, to finish with a pretty strong 7-5, and I think surprise some people in the conference. Next up, the Houston Cougars, who with Willie Fritz's second year, you expect them to make improvement. You bring in Connor Wigman at quarterback, and I think you can get a couple of wins here. Beating Stephen F. Austin, beating Rice, beating Colorado at home. It's a good start. But then Corvallis, Oregon, tough place to play. I think that one trips you up. And then Texas Tech, too much talent, in my opinion. You get back in a groove after you win against Oklahoma State, beat Arizona, but then ASU is going to get you. And off the bye, I think TCU and Baylor are just too good. But you finish the year 6-6, improving to bowl eligibility in Will Fritz's second year, and clearly a program trending in the right direction. Then we can do a team I grew up rooting for, the Arizona Wildcats. I'm hoping for improvement in Brent Brennan's second year, a bounce back from Noah Fifita, but I just don't see a lot of upside of this team. And Kansas State and Iowa State, two of the better teams in the conference, will beat you. I think you could beat Oklahoma State, probably lose to BYU, probably lose to Colorado. I'll give you the Kansas win. And I'm going to have you pull one upset against Baylor, lose to Arizona State to finish 5-7. Unfortunately, missing out on bowl eligibility. This is the one I most hope I am wrong about. But with McMillan gone, makeshift offensive line, a coach I don't fully believe in, it's hard for me to be too optimistic about the Wildcats. Next, a team that before the offseason looked to have a lot of hype, but with Jake Retzlaff transferring away, or I guess kind of just leaving the team after the off the field issues, you now have a lot of quarterback questions. I still think you're good enough to beat Stanford, who's probably one of the worst teams in the Power Four, but I'm just not as high on this team as I was before. Now, I still think you get off to a good start, looking at 5-1, but then Utah, I think, is just a better team than you now, and I like their quarterback better. Similar things with Iowa State, Texas Tech. And maybe even, I think you would. Let me see. You lose 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I'm going to give you one win here at home against TCU. I do like TCU's team slightly more, but I could see BYU pulling an upset there at some point. So 7-5 season for the Cougars. Not quite as good as last year, but pretty successful given the circumstances they've been dealt with. Next, I'm going to the Colorado Buffaloes, led by Coach Deion Sanders. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter exit, but you bring in either Julian Lewis or Caden Salter to lead. I think the O-line should be pretty good, but Georgia Tech, I think, is a real dark horse in the ACC, is going to be better than Colorado. You can beat Delaware, lose to Houston, and then beat Wyoming and BYU. TCU and Iowa State, to me, are just on another tier from Colorado this year. Yes, you surprised a lot of surprised a lot of people last year, but when you have a quarterback as good as Shedeur leave and you have the Heisman Trophy winner leave, you're going to experience regression. So I think you're really just fighting to make a bowl game. Utah, I think, is better. And off the bye, I think ASU is maybe the best. ASU and Kansas State, maybe the two best teams in the Big 12, beat you. So 4-8, that feels a little harsh. I think I'm going to get one more win here. And the one game I'm going to amend here is I think you can pull an upset on Iowa State. A team that, yes, with Rocco Becht back, is going to be really good, and we'll talk about them more later. But I think you can get one big home win against a team you're not supposed to beat, and I'll say it's Iowa State. So you finish 5-7. Next up, the Kansas Jayhawks, led by quarterback Jalen Daniels once again, and he's proven that when he is playing right and when they get into a rhythm, they can be one of the most dangerous teams in the conference, led by one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. I think you get off to a 4-1 start, and now upon further review, I'm actually switching this game. I think Kansas can beat UCF in this spot and then lose to Texas Tech. Off the bye, Kansas State dominates this rivalry. I think they win it once again. And then you beat Oklahoma State, lose to Arizona, and then off the bye, gonna lose to Iowa State, but I think you can pull the upset against the Utes to finish 7-5, a pretty good season for the Jayhawks. I expect Utah to be maybe the most improved team in the country, certainly in the Big 12, and I think you start off with a win against Nico Iamaleava and USC. I also think you beat California Polytechnic State and Wyoming pretty easily, but I think Texas Tech has the defensive infrastructure to limit Utah's run game and get the win. I already had them beating West Virginia, and off a bye, I think you get a signature win against Arizona. I really like what Kyle Whittingham has this year. I think you have the best O-line in the Big 12, led by the best running quarterback and a strong running back. So I think physically they're just going to be able to dominate a lot of teams in the run game. Off the bye, I do think Baylor beats you on the road, and then I think you beat Kansas State and lose to Kansas. I think Utah's a team that we've seen throughout the year struggle with depth, and I could see down the stretch dealing with some injuries, not being quite as strong as you were early in the year, but still finish with a 9-3 record and a chance to go to the Big 12 championship. Perhaps the dark horse of the conference is the TCU Horned Frogs, with Josh Hoover returning as one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. Eric McAllister and Jordan Dwyer looking like a good wide receiver duo. There's a lot of talent here to be a really good team. I think you win both your signature non-conference games against ACC opponents, beating North Carolina on the road and SMU at home. I do think you fall to Arizona State, but bounce back by beating Colorado. Again, road games against Kansas State and ASU are going to be too tough. I think these are arguably the two best teams in the conference, and you'll see what I have them doing in a second. You win a hard-fought game against in-state rival Baylor, but fall to West Virginia as you're now playing your seventh game in a row after a really rough week 2 bye week. That's just not really useful at all. But your second bye week is useful, and I think will allow you to beat Iowa State to finish the season 8-4. And yeah, I think there's a couple games here. Like, could I see you beating West Virginia or BYU on the road to improve to 9-3? definitely, and they're a team I wouldn't sleep on in terms of competing for a Big 12 title and a playoff spot. Similar to TCU, I think Baylor's the other team you're looking at as a potential dark horse there. I do think you fall into week one to Auburn, who I think is just going to be too strong on the line as a scrimmage for Baylor, particularly controlling Baylor's run game and then kind of forcefully moving the ball down the field and on Baylor's defensive line, which I do think could be a little bit suspect, especially to start the year. I do think you could beat SMU, though, in-state rival, on the road, and then beat Samford. I think you're barely going to lose to ASU, but then go on a run beating Oklahoma State and beating Kansas State at home. I already had you losing at TCU, beating Cincinnati, Central Florida, Utah, falling to Arizona in a bit of a trap game before the end of the season, and beating Houston to finish 8-4. Another team that, like, could you beat Auburn at home or pull off a win against ASU? TCU off a bye, Arizona, all four of their losses I think are winnable games. And if you steal a couple of those, Baylor's a team that can definitely contend to make the Big 12 championship in the college football playoff. Last year's Big 12 runner-up is the Iowa State Cyclones, who return a lot, especially with quarterback and running game. But when you lose Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, I expect the passing game to take a step back, and you're actually going to lose in Dublin to Kansas State. Obviously, a game that's sort of 50-50. I just barely like the Wildcats more. You respond beating South Dakota and your rival, the Hawkeyes, and then Arkansas State. Off a bye, you're able to beat Arizona and Cincinnati, but get tripped up by Colorado on the second leg of a back-to-back road trip. Off your second bye, you beat BYU, get revenge on ASU from the Big 12 title, then lose to TCU. And then on your final bye week of the year, you beat Kansas, beat Oklahoma State to finish 9-3, another very good season for Matt Campbell and the Iowa State Cyclones. Texas Tech invested millions of dollars into this team, bringing the best transfer portal in the class in the country, returning quarterback Baron Morton. There's a lot to like, especially on the lines of scrimmage and in the receiving room, and I think it leads to a strong season, winning all your non-conference games, then beating Utah, then beating Houston and Kansas to start the season 6-0 before getting tripped up by Arizona State in what I think is going to be maybe the most hyped game of the Big 12 season. I could see it being a college game day site. I think it's going to be absolutely huge. Then you beat Oklahoma State, lose to Kansas State on the road, beat BYU, beat Central Florida, and then a huge game to swing between 10-2 and 9-3. I think you get upset by the Mountaineers to finish 9-3, potentially a little short of your expectations, but still a great season for the Red Raiders. Next, the Kansas State Wildcats, who I think are going to be one of the best teams in the Big 12, led by a jump from quarterback Avery Johnson. He's already amongst the best in the league with his legs. I think he's going to improve with his arm. The receivers are good. The tight end core is really good. The O-line should be solid. I like Dylan Edwards as a playmaker as well. Special teams, always great for Kansas State. There's just so much to like, and I think you get off to a great 5-0 start before losing to Baylor. You respond, though, going on a run, beating TCU, Kansas on the road, Texas Tech in a big game, Oklahoma State. Utah gets you on your final road trip of the year, but then you beat Colorado to finish 10-2, 7-2 in conference. This game's not a conference game between Arizona, and secure a spot in the Big 12 title game where you'll play the ASU Sun Devils, who after finishing undefeated in non-conference play, go through the Big 12 and only lose 2 games to the road on Utah and to the road at Iowa State, and secure a second straight berth in the Big 12 championship game where they will face Kansas State. To recap, we have Kansas State and ASU finishing first and second in the Big 12, both at 7-2. Then in a 3-way tie for third place, or 4-way tie actually, Utah, Iowa State, Texas Tech, and Baylor finished 6-3 in conference. Then TCU, Kansas finished 5-4. BYU, Houston, West Virginia 4-5. Colorado, Cincinnati, and Arizona 3-6. UCF 2-7. Oklahoma State 1-8. So that's my final Big 12 predictions. If you're looking for who I have winning the conference championship game, that'll all be coming out soon. So stay tuned for more content like that. Like I said, if you guys enjoy this content, leave a like and subscribe. But that's all I have for today's video. Until next time.